Before the end of 2015, the 118-meter-tall Global Xi'an Center Tower, which had been topped off in 1999, was demolished by explosives, becoming known as China's first demolition. Recently, the Bay Area Zhihui Park project, located near the Chen Tian Garden in Baiyun District, Guangzhou, was completed within 80 days, with 7 buildings constructed. However, just 10 days later, all these buildings were demolished. The public has raised questions.
Whose money is being used for the one construction, one demolition policy? Is it taxpayers' money?
The project, once listed as a key district-level state-owned enterprise innovation initiative, was signed into an agreement on October 14, 2024, between the Baiyun District government and Guangzhou Construction Group. Under the agreement, the two parties will cooperate to construct the Bay Area Zhihui Park. The project, set against the backdrop of the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau Greater Bay Area development, aims to create a comprehensive park combining a technology innovation center and talent hub. Regarding the demolition of the building, the Baiyun District authorities simply stated that the building's procedures had not been completed. When reporters inquired about the project's construction timeline, staff replied that it was inconvenient to disclose. Some residents have raised concerns, questioning the waste of large sums of money within just 6 months of one construction, one demolition. This prompts doubts about which stage, be it project initiation, approval, or supervision, went wrong. Who should be held accountable? One user on X commented, "It doesn't matter whose money is spent on one construction, one demolition. What's important is GDP doubling and this is getting more shameless by the day." Yue Shan, a commentator familiar with Chinese politics, speculates that the situation is likely due to changes in key officials. When a new official comes in, they often disregard previous projects, especially when the officials who originally approved the construction have been removed. No one wants to take responsibility, so the new official orders the demolition instead. Yue Shan adds that projects rushed through in just 80 days are likely to be low quality or tofu dreg projects. One construction, one demolition wastes taxpayers' money, but Chinese officials, who are not elected, are held accountable only due to internal political struggles, not public oversight. Under this system, similar incidents are bound to occur frequently. Buildings constructed and demolished in short time across China are often criticized as vanity projects, most of which result from official corruption, but are also indicative of systemic issues within the Chinese Communist Party. These vanity projects, also known as image projects, are characterized by the emphasis on superficial appearances rather than addressing real public needs. The Xiong'an New Area, often promoted as a millennium plan by CCP leader Xi Jinping, has also been ridiculed as a vanity project. Such projects frequently waste financial resources, but in China, where officials are not elected and there's no press freedom, effective supervision is lacking. Some of these vanity projects are built only to be demolished immediately after completion, leading to further financial waste. In November 2024, Qingshu County, Taiyuan City, Shanxi Province, a 590 million yuan investment was allocated for the county's water system ecological management and urban parking projects. However, the funds were improperly used to repair the roof of government office buildings and to install artificial coconut trees on the urban square in front of the county government, costing 13 million yuan. The coconut tree, a symbol of Hainan Island in southern China, sparked controversy. In response to the public outcry, the local authorities demolished these decorative structures overnight. Jinyu District in Chengdu, Sichuan, has also been under scrutiny. From July 2021 to December 2023, Jinyu District invested 1.2 billion yuan in the construction of a 82,200 square meter international exchange center. The project used imported stone, handmade wool carpets, and glass curtain walls. The landscaping and greening work cost a total of almost 7 million yuan, while the intelligent information systems exceeded 120 million yuan in expenses. The renovation of the conference center alone reached 5,489 yuan per square meter, nearly twice the construction cost. On May 11, 2024, Jiangsu TV reported that residents of Huzhou Village in Suzhou Province expressed concerns after a park which had cost nearly 17 million yuan to build, was demolished less than 5 months after completion. The authorities stated that the reason for the demolition was that some of the land involved was suspected of occupying agricultural land and was ordered to be rectified. The park was therefore leveled. Local residents lamented the loss, and experts criticized the officials for poor decision-making. The giant statue of Guangzhou in Guangzhou in Hebei province was funded by the state-owned Hebei Cultural Tourism Investment Group. Construction began in 2014 and was completed in 2016, standing at 57.3 meters tall and weighing over 1,200 tons. The statue was a tribute to Guangzhou, a famous general in ancient China who had long defended Guangzhou. After its completion, the statue received strong support from the authorities. However, on October 8, 2020, it was reported by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Rural Development of the Chinese Communist Party as an illegal construction. By September 2, 2021, the statue was demolished. The statue had cost 172.9 million yuan to build, and the demolition project totaled 155 million yuan. Over 300 million yuan was thus wasted on this project. In 2017, Jianghe County in Qingdongdan Miao and Dong Autonomous Prefecture of Guangzhou Province invested 86 million yuan to build the world's largest statue of the Miao goddess Yang Asha, despite being a poverty-stricken county at the time. This project sparked widespread criticism in 2020. The authorities responded, stating that it was built after securing financing. However, many netizens did not believe the official explanation. While the statue has not been demolished, it has become a symbol of vanity projects. In 2016, Dushan County in Guangzhou, with an annual fiscal revenue of around 1 billion yuan, borrowed nearly 200 million yuan to build the world's first water administration tower. However, due to a broken capital chain and other financial issues, construction halted in 2018, less than 2 years later. When Dushan County Party Secretary Pan Zili was dismissed in November 2018, the county's debt has soared to over 40 billion yuan, with annual debt interest exceeding 4 billion yuan. At the same time, Dushan County's fiscal revenue in 2018 was 1 billion yuan, far from enough to cover the interest. Moreover, by the end of 2018, the county's registered population was 356,065. Based on this, the 40 billion yuan debt meant that the per capita debt in Dushan County reached 112,000 yuan. In the past decade, short-lived buildings in China have become more frequent, with some of them reported by the media. In 2012, the Shenyang Green Island Football Stadium, which had an investment of around 800 million yuan and was once the largest indoor football stadium in Asia, was demolished after less than 10 years of use due to its low utilization rate. In 2014, Yunnan's Hekou County invested 270 million yuan to construct the China-ASEAN Hekou International Tourism and Cultural Scenic Corridor, which was demolished 3 years later at a cost of 300 million yuan. Similarly, in 2009, Wuhan's Shouyi Sports Training Center's comprehensive training hall, which has only been in use for 10 years, was demolished to make way for the upcoming Xinhai Revolution Museum and Monument. Chinese state media once reported that 90% of these short-lived buildings were the result of unreasonable demolitions. The issue of short lifespans of buildings is not solely due to quality problems. The vast majority of these early deaths stem from poor planning and location choices, as well as local governments' eagerness to boost their image and economic results. This issue is mainly driven by the turnover of officials and their tendency to rely on urban construction for political achievements. Local Communist Party officials are often overly eager to make an impact, directly intervening in projects and assuming the role of chief urban planner. They say, demolishing once creates GDP, rebuilding again creates GDP. Behind many of these demolitions is a close link to land-based finance. Over the past 3 decades, as land prices soared, revenue from land sales generated through demolitions has been a significant source of income. Some cities eager to expedite land swaps for development have even labeled housing estates built around the year 2000 as shantytowns to facilitate demolitions. Recently, the Chinese authorities held a Central Urban Work Conference in Beijing, once again pushing for the transformation of urban villages and and the renovation of old buildings. Over the past 3 decades, the Chinese Communist Party has pursued various versions of old city renovation plans. However, due to insufficient compensation, these plans have often met with resistance, and forced demolitions have led to numerous bloodshed incidents. Many projects have faced delays due to issues such as funding shortages and resistance to demolition, ultimately becoming unfinished buildings. Commentator Kai Shen-kun believes that many of China's real estate projects are poorly constructed, often referred to as tofu dreg projects, and are now turning into dangerous buildings. He argues that the authorities' push for a new round of urban village renovations and old city transformations is an attempt to use land-based finance to prolong the regime's lifespan. Commentator Tang Jingyuan highlights that although the previous rounds of urban renovation boosted the real estate sector and stimulated economic growth, they also led to a dramatic increase in local debt, which remains unresolved to this day. Over several decades of urbanization, real estate was once one of China's most significant economic drivers, but has also been in crisis for the past 5 years. Data released on July 15 showed that housing prices in 70 Chinese cities continued to fall in June, with second-hand home prices in first-tier cities dropping at an accelerating rate during the second quarter. Analysts believe that the CCP's continued push for old city renovations will further burden local debt. The authorities no longer have any feasible solutions to resolve the economic crisis. However, local officials may use this opportunity to create more short-lived vanity projects. The repeated process of demolition and construction has become an unspoken rule for local governments to attract political achievements.
Why is it that every time they are fixing roads, and they always fix perfectly fine roads, why not take this funding and apply it to where the repairs are actually needed? It seems that every city has this issue, digging up roads repeatedly, digging, fixing, then digging again. This happens even on the same stretch of road, and I've seen the same situation in Kunming as well. I think it might be a problem related to government planning or poor coordination between various departments.
One person commented, "I have to say, the patience of the Chinese people is really high. Ineffective officials, bad systems, a sleeping populace, and an unaccountable government, do they expect it to serve them?" Commentator Xu Ke stated that, looking at Chinese state media, it is clear that the government has been claiming for years that they oppose vanity projects, and they won't engage in wasteful vanity or image projects, and that officials will be held accountable. Yet these issues continue to emerge, intertwined with corruption. This is because the CCP system itself is corrupt. As long as the CCP remains in power, China's problems will never be resolved. In addition to examples of government-built projects being demolished shortly after completion, there are also cases of privately invested buildings being easily ordered for demolition by the authorities. In May, the luxurious Yingzi Garden in Shantou, Guangdong, covering more than 8 acres, was forcibly demolished by the government under the pretext of being an illegal construction, sparking public outcry. The Yingzi Garden was reportedly planned and constructed starting in 2013, with an investment of nearly 1 billion yuan from the Chen brothers of Xilu town. Netizens commented, "It should have been stopped during the construction phase. Now that it's built, it's considered an illegal construction, resulting in huge losses. What a shame. A slight modification could have turned it into a public welfare, charity, or social service project. Isn't this a waste of resources?" In fact, these one construction, one demolition projects are merely a quick fix approach. Over the past 2 to 3 decades, some projects have been reported by the media, with enormous figures made public, making them more eye-catching. However, China's biggest money sink remains its so-called big infrastructure projects. For the past 20 to 30 years, China has been a building powerhouse, experiencing an explosion of steel and concrete. Besides leaving local governments with massive debt, these projects have now entered a new era of infrastructure maintenance, which is an endless pit of expenditure with very little transparency. Why did high-speed rail fares begin to rise significantly in 2024? Why have there been so many road accidents in recent years? And why are so many old buildings and neighborhoods facing issues? Aside from occasional misfortunes, the core reason is that China has transitioned from an era of massive infrastructure construction to an era of major infrastructure maintenance. The towering structures once seen as symbols of national glory, bridges, tunnels, highways, railways, urban transit systems, and large dams are no longer new projects. They are now heavy assets entering their middle or old age. Once stars that drove GDP growth, they have now become heavy financial burdens hanging over government budgets. By the end of 2024, the total length of China's highways will exceed 190,000 kilometers, with over 120,000 kilometers forming part of the national expressway system. This infrastructure is considered one of the most significant symbols of China's reform and opening up. Reports show that by around 2013, China's expressways began to run at a loss, and by 2020, the total accumulated loss had reached nearly 6 trillion yuan. This was mainly due to high construction costs, heavy debt burdens, and insufficient toll revenue to cover operational expenses and debt repayments. The 6 trillion yuan figure dates back to pre-pandemic times, and the number is likely even higher now. In recent years, China has built a large number of grand, complex infrastructure projects in the central and western regions. Some of these projects cross deep mountain gorges and high-altitude snow lines, resulting in exorbitant construction costs, often 2 to 3 times the cost of projects in eastern regions. The typical lifespan of an expressway is 20 to 30 years. Earlier coastal expressways, like the Shanghai-Nanjing, Beijing-Tianjin, and Guangzhou-Shenzhen routes, have already entered intensive maintenance periods. China's high-speed rail, which began large-scale deliveries in 2007, is also facing a maintenance challenge. After more than a decade of operation, the earlier high-speed trains, including the Harmony series, are now undergoing advanced repairs. The Fuxing and CR380 series, launched in 2014, have a general overhaul cycle of about 10 years, meaning that 2024 marks the beginning of the first wave of advanced maintenance for these trains. According to the 2024 data from China State Railway Group, over 4,800 standard high-speed trains are undergoing various levels of maintenance, with some entering level 4 and 5 repairs. Despite this, some high-speed rail stations, built in remote locations with inadequate facilities and low passenger flow, are either unused or have been closed. While construction can be packaged as political achievements, maintenance quietly eats into the finances. Since the pandemic, local debt in China has spiraled out of control. By 2024, the scale of local government debt has surpassed 5 times the local fiscal revenue, with provinces like Qinghai and Jilin exceeding 8 times. According to the Ministry of Finance, 23 provinces had a fiscal deficit exceeding 100 billion yuan, and 15 provinces had a deficit above 200 billion yuan. Sichuan, with a gap of 413 billion yuan, topped the list. By 2024, at least one-third of cities in China are unable to repay the interest on their local debts, with the pace of debt reduction far behind the accumulation of new debt. On May 1, 2024, a road collapse occurred on the Meilong Expressway in Dapu County, Meizhou, Guangdong. The collapse caused 23 vehicles to fall, resulting in 52 deaths and 30 injuries. The first phase of the Meizhou Expressway opened in 2013, and the second phase in 2014, meaning the road had been in operation for over 10 years. Typically, expressways are designed to last 20 to 30 years, but many roads require major repairs after 3 to 5 years of use, and repairs cost money. However, U.S. senior bridge design engineer Zhu Shuiyi, after reviewing information related to the Meizhou highway collapse, stated that the accident was caused by poor engineering quality, not a natural disaster. He explained that the Communist Party's desire for achievements led to excessive focus on economic growth, which in turn meant spending money on large-scale projects that are expensive and susceptible to corruption, which results in poor quality. Zhu also warned that after decades of rapid development, China's infrastructure, including highways and railways, would face more problems. Many of these buildings, roads, and bridges constructed 10 to 20 years ago, coupled with poor quality, will inevitably lead to more accidents.